Hello there, my name is Brother Sean, and interestingly, whilst out with the dogs this morning having a brief walk, I was thinking about Mrs. Doyle. How was she doing in the Teo community? And it came to me, gosh, she's facing one of her big demons. And I reflected on that, and then I thought, oh, come on, let's do a trilogy, some backup, to share how she's coping with her formation in the Teo community. So I want you to picture the scene. Mrs. Doyle has been sent to Cumbria. No, she's not been sent. She's been invited to Cumbria. And she sat here in the garden with some of the community who've come to meet the famous Mrs. Doyle. Because news has got round that Mrs. Doyle has broken free from running the priest's house where Father Jack and Father Ted gave her a miserable life. So they're sat in the garden, it's a fine day, and they decided to have a bit of a picnic. So Sister Sue from Blackpool arrives with Sister Polly from Spain. And if that wasn't enough, with Sister Miriam from Cheshire, with Sister Julie from Scotland, and of course, not to be outdone, Sister Joy or Mother Abundancia. So they're all sat around in the garden having a real old chinwag, and they're talking about facing fear. And it came to Mrs. Doyle and she said, oh Jesus, she says, I'm petrified of fear. It has ruled me life. So Polly said, what do you mean, Mrs. Doyle? She said, oh, I've lived in fear all my life. Sure, I was brought up a young chiseler of a family of 14. And sure, Jesus, I was always picked on. And I was always frightened of the old fella, that's me father. Sure, he had a cane, and I'm telling you now, he'd bait the legs of you, black and blue he would. So Sister Sue from Blackpool said, that must have been dreadful for you. She said, yes, she said, I just have this fear in me, she says, that me demons will come back to get me, because I'm so happy here. I'm loving the 6 months postulancy. Jesus, it's great crack. Apart from him. So, of course, Sister Julie said, who do you mean? Well, himself. He's like Father Ted. Oh, you mean Brother Sean? Oh, Jesus, he's wicked. He's so strict. Ah, but it's for your own good, said Sister Joy. But did you not know that as a Catholic Christian, Mrs. Doyle, that you're invited to make your confession? We, of course, are lucky because we're not Catholics. Some of us are Christian, so we're not obligated, but we do like you to draw a line at the past so that you can move forward, especially now that you're coming to the end of the Tree of Life course and the community will be voting on you. So it'd be nice to bury the hatchet, wouldn't it? Because I'm aware from conversation with you in the past that you don't really particularly like this Doyle fella. Oh, Jesus, no, he's ruined me life. But I'm my own worst enemy because I used to say, go on, go on, go on. But I used to tease him, but then he took advantage. Oh, big time. Well, why don't you consider going? We've got a locum priest. He won't know you from Adam. She can pop in there now and see him. I can always ring up. Oh, not at all, Sister Joy. I'll do it myself. But when is this queer fella in town? Oh, Jesus, he'll be here on Saturday. Right then. Well, what day is it today? Oh, it's Thursday. That's right. And you've all come down to meet me. Oh, you're marvellous. Jesus, I've heard so much about you, Sister Julie, in the Upper Hebrides. But I believe the winds are horrendous. Well, they're not too bad, Mrs. Doyle. But let me tell you now, she says, I'm dreading the confession bit because I've not been since that time I went to see that priest in the neighbouring village, thinking he wouldn't know me, and Jesus, he knew me inside out. But sure, I'll go anyway, because I want to start me 2 years novitiate on the right foot, and I don't really want to get it wrong, because I so love Teresa Fafla. Well, what's she got to do with it, said Sister Sue. Did you not hear? Sister Joy has decided that we're going to do the interior castle. Sure, she said that's marvellous. I love Teresa Favla. She cuts no punches, isn't it? But sure, said Sister Polly, but sure, is not the woman, the nun, that was thrown in a cow pat and lifted her fist to God? She, Jesus, she said she did. But isn't she marvellous? So anyway, they all finished their cup of tea. And they loved the cake. And of course, Mrs. Doyle can't resist the calories because she's never counted them, so she had a second piece. And the sisters all gave one another a hug, and they all retired. Some were sleeping in sleep bags downstairs, so that they could all be together for our big day when she's been received into the noviceship on the Sunday. Oh, there was great crack. Oh, and Sister Fee just arrived, and she brought her beautiful cat Seth. God, he's amazing for 18 years old. Oh, he is. He's a belter. But of course, Sister Polly's brought Iris, and Iris is very territorial. So I'm not too sure whether she'll get on with Seth. But anyway, that's their story, not mine. So come Saturday morning, the Mrs. Doyle is up bright and early. She's had a shower. She's put on a little bit of tutty, because she wants to look her best. And of course, Sister Joy decides to take her to the church to see the locum priest, and then they could go out and do a bit of a pub lunch. It's a celebration, really, because the 6 months have been tough for poor Mrs. Doyle, because she left school at a very early age to look after the young chiselers. But however, in goes Mrs. Doyle, and she said, oh, I like this church. Very nice, very modern, Sister Joy. Oh, beautiful. I like how they've got the altar there. Oh, marvellous. But Jesus, there's a queue for confession. So, of course, Fee, being Sister Fee, said probably they knew it was a locum and they decided to bury the hatchet like yourself. Because the priest, he's a bit of an old tyrant. He's an old fuddy-duddy, like Father Jack. However, Sister Mrs. Doyle decides to get in the queue, and it comes to her turn and she goes in. And she's there already, looking her Sunday best on the Saturday, of course. And she's about to begin, and she suddenly hears this almighty clatter. And she looks around and she says, what was that? Anyway, she proceeded to say, oh, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. Sure, it's many months since my last confession. And she thought she heard him say too bloody true. And she felt a bit unnerved. Well, it's a few months, if you really want to know. I can't be precise on the day, but I do remember that it was a locum priest in the neighbouring village, and I wanted to avoid that Father Ted fella because he's given me hell. Hell, he's run me ragged. But anyway, I'm away from him now. So that was then and this is now. And I want to start as I mean to go on, because I'm becoming a novice tomorrow in the Teo community of Interspiritual Franciscans. And at that, didn't the grill window open? And guess whose face was there? I nearly died a gasket. It was Father Ted. Jesus, I said to myself, not you. You're hounding me like a hound from heaven. What's you doing there? I'm covering as a locum for the queer fellow. He's gone off on holiday with his floozy. Well, Jesus, how did you know? I wanted to be near you to see what you're up to. And I wanted to make sure that you knew what you were doing and that you weren't just doing it despite me. So she said, now listen here, Father Ted. I've not come all this way to Cumbria to put up with a double of yours. What do you mean a double of mine? Should that Brother Sean fella, he's the spitting of image of you. He's as strict as you are. But let me tell you, Mrs. Doyle, I've come here to give you a second chance. I'd love you to go back home. The teas aren't the same without you. The local villagers are missing all the gossip from the presbytery. No, Father, I'm not. I've had enough of you and your sinfulness, and your floozy and your son. No, I'm staying put. Now forgive me, or I'm off. Well, I better had forgive you then. In the name of the Father, and of the God. No, I'm off, and I don't want to see your ugly mush again, Father Ted. I've had enough of you. I'm off. And tomorrow I'm going to be known as Sister Margarita of the 5 Most Precious Wounds. What? I thought he didn't buy into that. Well, you see, I'm a Catholic Christian. I can choose my own name. And I've got such a love for the passion of Jesus. And I want to be his 5 wounds. Well, good luck to you, Sister Mary Margaret Mary of the 5 Most Precious Wounds. I hope you're happy in your new life. Now get a life. Go on with you. And at that, Mrs. Doyle left, dusting herself down, and she came out. And Sister Joy noticed that she was ashen white, and she said, "You all right?" She said, "You're not going to believe it, Sister Joy. Father Ted, the one I've been running away from, he was the priest at the confessional." She said, "I thought you were a long time in there." "Oh, come on, let's go to the pub and let's have a pub lunch and catch up on the gossip." And off they went.